This one's for the culture. Me and wifey in the room thinking of a master plan, thinking how we can influence the culture from where we stand. Knowing that our steps are ordered by the master's hand, still 10 toes down, we ain't switching up the stance. The mission of this music ain't just to make them dance, trying to tell them about the rock, cause they built.
And welcome everybody to episode 76, or episode 1 post Italy in Paris. What a feeling to be back. What a feeling to be back. How do you feel?
Sober? No, let me stop. No, I have been drunk off of culture and experience and life, darling. For the last almost 2 weeks, I feel good. I feel sad to be home, but happy to be back with the kids. Obviously, I was starting to miss those little boogers. Overall, great. Could have used a nap before we just jumped right back into our very busy, hectic lives, but you know, such is life.
That it is. As you can see, we are back. We are alive. We have made it. We are free of any sickness or disease, any life-threatening situations. We've overcome them and made it back to the United States. There were times where I was very happy to be coming back. Now that I am back, I wouldn't mind leaving again. But we here, so we're going to get to really what I'm sure you guys are here for, which is the recap of the lovely trip. For those of you who have been watching on social media, or for our Patreon folks, you've already seen a little bit more in depth as far as the videos and things. But we wanted to give it to you from our perspective, a little bit more in depth on all the different things, because there was a lot. There was a lot for us to see, a lot that we experienced. And obviously, we want to communicate it in a way that is easy to digest, entertaining enough to follow, but also educational, I guess. And we learned a lot. I learned a lot. So really good experience overall for me. We did miss you guys. So as you all know, we went to Italy and we went to France. And in those travels of Italy, we went to a variety of different places. And overall, I am going to give our trip an 8 out of 10. 10 would be going to heaven. 1 would be going to hell, I guess. And I'm going to go 8. I will get into the specifics of that here in a moment. But I did want to get to you and see what you thought.
So I guess when I saw this portion of the notes pop up, I just assumed maybe, I don't know. I think I was only thinking of Italy. I wasn't thinking about like the trip in its entirety overall. Like I saw it in the sentence, but did I really establish it? It was overall.
Oh, okay.
So the overall trip itself, I'm still giving it a 10. Like we had an amazing time. And even though there were some very crappy portions of the trip for sure, on a scale of all the trips we've been on, it's definitely a 10 by far.
So you just made up your own scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's 10 out of 10. And I guess if we can separate it, like the Italy portion of the trip, freaking amazing.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. Highly recommend. Do it. Don't care how much it costs. Spend the money. Just go. Just don't make any excuses. Just go. Paris, on the other hand, is real ghetto. Do not recommend. Like it's kind of crazy how night and day the two cultures are. Paris was beautiful, but the people left so much to be desired. So I guess if you balance it out, it probably equals out to like an 8.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
And 8 was like if you take Paris away, it's a 12.
Exactly.
But Paris is so bad on so many levels that I couldn't go 8. I will say it had a lot as I've taken some time to reflect on both sides. They offered other things. Paris offered me a sporting experience I'll probably never get. And I don't know what else besides that.
Dang. Nothing?
I mean, the architecture we can get in Italy. The streets and driving we can get in Italy. The food, I'm sure there's better food everywhere. We
and
didn't
that's
even
the
look
crazy
for French food,
but no, that's the crazy thing. All of the really great, highly rated restaurants that were near us, right by the Eiffel Tower, were all Italian restaurants. Most of the little cafes and things that we were passing by were all offering Italian food and Italian type foods. So it was kind of weird, to come from Italy and having the most amazing culinary experience probably ever. And then going to a knockoff. And both were really good. We enjoyed the foods that we did try in Paris. But it's just Italy. I mean, what else can you say?
I mean, I think that's the thing. I guess it's so many. I'm at a loss for so many words, and I was trying to explain this to someone this past weekend, and I was just saying my vocabulary has to expand because the varying appreciation that I have for Italy is hard to communicate and articulate, and the disdain and disgust that I had for Paris in some ways has really been disappointing. And I am a customer service person. I've been in service industries early in my life. I think everybody should do a service waiter type job, janitor type job, any of those quote unquote low service jobs where you got to deal with people, work retail during a holiday so that you get a better understanding of how you should deal with people. And when your planes are broken and you ruin people's transfers, you don't wash your hands with them so you can hurry them on to the next person. You listen to what they're trying to tell you instead of trying to talk over them. You actually try to understand what they're saying and relate and empathize in some capacity. Like we're in France and the manager comes out and says in a matter of moments, well, you're a better manager than I am. Yeah, thanks, I am. But that doesn't solve my problem. So that kind of attitude was just consistent, and we never really were able to shake it. And I say this in the same vein that I didn't want to not like it. So I don't want, as we kind of go through this and we talk about the differences, to people to think, well, he never even wanted to go, or he had this negative notion of Paris or French people. I didn't. I actually was told the opposite by a lady at our church. So I went more optimistic, more, okay, we're going to give it a chance. Oh, we're going to eat crepes and all the stuff.
Crepes.
Yeah, I know, it was a joke. But yeah, it didn't really materialize. But Italy, on the other hand, was just so different. We had one lady at the rent-a-car place, Enterprise, go figure. And I wish I'd have got her name because I would put her on blast. But Enterprise has been good to me. I've had corporate accounts for a long time. Never really had a problem. Her, not so much. But other than that, our people experience was pretty solid. They kind of robbed us at one restaurant, but I think it was just miscommunication. But even in that, like, I wasn't even mad. Like, I probably shouldn't have been mad because though they had been good to us before also. So I don't think it was malicious or anything. But yeah, that's kind of my high level. That's where my 8 comes from.
Am I supposed to explain where my tens come from?
You can go on to the next or whatever you want to do.
Oh, okay, whatever I want to do. I don't know. What best experience? You didn't talk about that.
Yep. Well, I was saying that you could have done that, but
Oh.
I'm saying. So the next thing we did want to get to was what we felt was our best experience, and I will let you share what your best experience was of either trip. It could have been something in Paris, maybe.
No,
Somehow.
it's definitely Italy. But that's the hard part because I want to say going to Rome and experiencing Rome. I thought going to Rome and experiencing Rome was going to be the highlight of the trip for me.
Really?
I did.
I did not expect that.
I did. I thought because I've loved Roman and Greek mythology for.
Yeah, but you're at least leading up to. I kept seeing Florence stuff
because I didn't realize how much stuff was in Florence until I really started like getting deep into everything that we were going to be able to see. And so we had this extremely extensive itinerary planned out. I had picked all these cities that I wanted to go to. Each and every day was meticulously laid out so that we could get the most out of the trip as we possibly could. And I just knew that Rome was going to be the piece de resistance. Like I just thought it was going to be everything. But Florence was it. Like from the architecture to seeing the Duomo, just the walking through the streets and just the experience of that city period was amazing. But then when you start talking about interacting with the people were so nice. The market, if I could have spent more money in probably any of the markets, but the market in Florence was bomb. And then just all the history that was there. Again, when you think of Italy, when the first cities that you think of in Italy aren't necessarily always Florence, even though Florence was the capital of Italy at one point in time. You don't necessarily, you think Rome, you think Venice, you think, depending on how into fashion you are, you think Milan. If you are an Instagram person, everybody's flooding down to the Amalfi Coast and all, what is it? Mykonos, like you're going further south. So I don't necessarily think Florence, outside of maybe a few travel influencers that I follow, have even been. So when I got like deep into like, oh, we got to do on this tour, we got to go see where the Medicis live. Like, if you didn't watch that show on Netflix, it's a great show. I loved it. Great acting.
What's it called?
Medicis.
Oh.
But I just didn't realize how much of the trip was going to really be centered around Florence. And then just going and again seeing the Duomo and the cathedral and the baptistry with my own eyes, walking through the streets, walking over the Ponte Vecchio, like it was pretty amazing. And then to top it off, as we were leaving Florence on that last day, we finally found that overlook thing that we had been looking at from various points of the city, over the last 2 days. And we find it and we go up there, and the view of the city and the river and the countryside behind it. No, mountains on one side, countryside, other side. Just beautiful. Like, I just wish I had more words, better words. I should have pulled up my thesaurus before we got started. It was just overwhelming, just awesome. And I'm surprised that it ended up being my best part of the trip.
Love to
the little place over in Oltrano, like it was just so nice.
What place was that?
The place where we had the meat butter.
Yeah. Yeah, we just dropped in on some locals, learned some local music, and they talked about the square and their love or dislike for hip hop.
Yeah, the one guy, he was a younger gentleman. He wasn't super excited about the fact that Kendrick Lamar had just been there, although he did want to see Beyonce.
No, he was really excited about Beyonce.
He wanted to see Beyonce, but he wasn't really sure about it, I think, at the time.
Fair enough. Yes. So obviously, I'm going to lean to the Italian side for my best experience. So this is tough for me because there's like LeBron is coming, and will LeBron meet expectations or will he fall flat? And then there's like Steph, where it's like, oh yeah, I could see some potential, but he might just blow it out the water. So it's like, which one do you like? And so for me, I'm going to go with Steph. And for me, that was Pisa. Up until the last, like a week beforehand, I didn't even realize that we were staying in near Pisa. And I kept saying Pisa, Pisa, Pisa. But something you said, or some reason you mentioned, you're like, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And I said,
What?
We're
going to see the Leaning Tower?
And it just registered like, oh my God, we're going to get a chance to see it. And so that was really exciting. And the way I had planned out the schedule was that was actually going to be the first day. In hindsight, I may have actually, it worked out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But we had like a tour of the baptistry that she talked about. We were supposed to look up the name of the cathedral, and I did not. But there was a really cool foresightal. That's not a real word. What's to have foresight? Like a group of people having foresight? I don't know. But the idea that they were planned in such a way and strategic for the Square of Miracles was just really dope. A lot of Italian culture is based in faith, which isn't surprising. You think Rome, and for me, just Rome and Italy didn't connect for me for the longest time. You think Roman Empire, like they're this massive group somewhere else, but no, it's just a city inside of a country.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see how that played a role in obviously Christianity, we're Christians, Catholicism, and the Pope being at the Vatican. So how all of that interconnected was really cool. But for me, Pisa was it, because that was kind of like the foundation. You see the outside city walls, you see the influence of the Medicis very prevalent there as well. You see the foundation of really the country is shaky. The ground is just bad, and they had a bunch of heavy stuff on bad ground. So Pisa's leaning, and actually, many may not know, all the buildings in this Miracle Square are leaning because they're all based on foundations. But the way it's built, the Leaning Tower is way more obvious. But just little nuggets. We had some phenomenal tour guides. If you do go, I'm going to shout out City Wonders. They were the tour we used for most of the company we used the most, and they were amazing. The guides they gave us were amazing. I think they did the Rome Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
They did
the walking
Pisa,
Florence tour,
and that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so yeah, they did. I knew they did most of it. And they were just really, really great people. We had two ladies and a gentleman, Nicola. And he was an archaeologist. Two of them were like archaeologists who worked in the area. Annette was one. Annette was the second one. Because we didn't get the first person's name.
We took the picture with her.
But Annette we did get. Annette was.
Well, we got a selfie with the one chick. She took the selfie. David. Remember? No. That was Annette. At Pisa.
Yeah. We have it.
No, she took that.
Oh yeah, she took it.
She did. She. I don't remember telling us her name. She did tell us her name at the very beginning of the tour.
It was also really cold that day, so
it was really cold every day.
Especially like towards the end, I was sweating in Rome
because we were walking so hard.
Well, it was hot enough. I'll tell you that.
No, the weather was actually decent. We dressed in layers. After the first day in Florence, we kind of figured out, this is kind of what the deal is. So we needed to make some adjustments.
Sunshine and wind. If you stayed in the sun and there wasn't a lot of wind, it was great.
Perfect. Yeah.
If you were not in the sun and you had wind, not so great.
Freezing. Almost lost a drone.
On his first
mission.
Like the Titanic. God rest his soul. But yeah, that was my best. My best was the Pisa Cathedral specifically. They say men are visual. I might be a little bit, maybe more than that. I'm not like artistic. Like I can't draw. I can't make no music. But I just love arts and entertainment. Like I love music. I love art and culture. And to see the level of excellence that was displayed, for me, it brought heaven into perspective. Like, I hear that in heaven they're going to have streets of gold and gates of pearls and just grandiose fashion. We don't have that in America. Not really. Like, stuff ain't laid out, ceilings in gold. Like, you don't get to see that on structures that people just go in every day. Like, you might see marble, I see stone, but just the level of
opulence.
Yeah, that's a great word. It was just different. You hear about David and Solomon's temple in the Bible and how lavish things were. But then to see how they could, one, make that stuff with the tools they had in that generation, like, it's mind-blowing that they, one, wanted it to be done. Two, they had like contests to figure out how to even make some of the things happen. The scaffolding necessary to paint the ceilings in the Sistine Chapel, like, just seeing all of that was just overwhelming for me.
You just talked about like 3 different cities all in one sentence.
And that's
it's cool because I understand what you're saying, like the scaffolding, like everything. It was just funny to listen to it.
And that's why I'm trying to condense it all, because we got so much. We're still stuck on like the first bullet.
So much stuff.
But man, it was just so refreshing to see it, the sculpting of everything. In the baptistry, they played John the Baptist. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. If y'all see John the Baptist in Italy,
in all of the renderings of John the Baptist,
he
like
bad
everywhere, and
he pissed somebody off.
And then that's the thing. Like, John the Baptist didn't piss nobody off. Like,
well, he got his head cut off.
Well,
but
yes.
In Italy, I don't know why they looked at like he looked broke.
You would think
he was like the raggedy uncle you got.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, in his time, yes, he was hated. But the people who were painting him
revered,
were like had so much love and reverence for him.
You would think
that they would have hooked my boy up with a nice cloak or something. But every single painting, every sculpture of him, like, he was in worn, tattered clothing. He had the most beat up little, like, they couldn't even give my man a nice staff.
Like, brittle. It was all bad.
It was all bad.
Mary got a lot of love.
Mary got mad.
John, not so much.
Actually, and that's the thing. Most of the churches were named after Mary.
Yeah.
So after a while,
they call it Madonna.
Well, that's the painting.
Oh. Why you call it that?
Because that's the name. Like, I can't remember like why it was named that. But the Madonna and the baby, like, there's a specific term for it.
Oh.
Like, it's not Madonna the singer.
I knew that.
Okay. But no, Saint Mary or Santa Maria, or
it was mad her.
But most of the cathedrals were named Saint Mary something. So they all just kind of got mingled at some point in time.
Fair enough. Speaking of getting mingled together, I'm just going to mingle this together because y'all have heard it, and I'm not going to go off too much more. Paris sucked. The airport was trash. Air France, y'all are the absolute most trash airline I have ever experienced in my life. I know I've been over on 50 different flights in my life. Easy. This was by far the worst customer service experience, the worst plane situation that y'all had. There was no backup. We got stuck in Florence because there was a part that was broken, and then they had to fly the part to us, fix it. Then they didn't even fix it. They put us on a different plane.
Yeah.
Like, didn't announce it. We were in the lounge just waiting. Then all of a sudden they were boarding the plane. We had to catch the shuttle. Like, just the absolute trash from top to bottom. We got there. We waited in line. They didn't say nothing to us. And again, this was in Italy. So I'm going to blame this on France. This is Air France people that permeated the borders of Italy and destroyed its peaceful, prosperous outlook on life. And they poisoned it with these people that were just sitting there and just had us standing in line, filling up, and wouldn't say nothing. I finally walked up like, yo, are y'all open? Like, what's up? He said, we're not open yet. Okay, when you gonna be up in 5 minutes? You couldn't say nothing. You just got to stand in here with all our stuff. Like, every person that works for them was just incompetent and dumb. And I don't understand where they hire these people. I don't understand where they solicit jobs. I don't understand if there's a recruitment company they use, but y'all suck. And I cannot reiterate that enough. If y'all were not a part of this trip, I might have been able to die and go to heaven and live a great life, because that would have been a heavenly vacation. But no, I started in Paris and I had to end in Paris. So I'm stuck with that in my psyche for the rest of my life, that this experience was tainted by y'all. That's all I'm going to say about Paris and France. Hopefully I don't mention it again in a negative light on this podcast. But I want y'all to understand how upset and disturbed I was that I had to deal with them. Even on the way home, I had to scan my boarding pass 8 times. We had to scan a boarding pass, not a passport. The boarding pass I had to scan 8 different times by like military personnel. Like, why? We had to go to different terminals with no signage anywhere. It was just some cut, like some alleyway that they stick you at the end of the airport, and then you can't bring your little cart down. So, like, it was just the worst. Like, and it was all races. There was black people that sucked. There was white people that sucked. It was like a Middle Eastern chick that when we landed and they told me to go see the agent, you suck too. There was a foreigner in Italy that I had to talk to. He didn't know nothing. The pilot didn't. No one knew anything. But passed me to the next person until I got to the final boss, who was a useless manager who basically said I would be better at his job than he was and go online. That was my Air France experience. That was my France-Paris experience for a lot of it. And that's why you ruined a beautiful Mona Lisa and put a Joker smile on her, because y'all sucked. I'm done.
Oh, man.
What was your worst experience?
Well, since Ray already went down the list of everything that went wrong, it's obviously definitely the Air France, flying with Air France, specifically Air France. Say it again, Air France. If you can get to France, Paris, any of these French countries, any of these French places, without flying Air France, I would highly recommend it. It was just an awful experience from start to finish, to be 100% honest. There's not really anything nice I can say about Air France, except definitely improve upon your customer service practices. There was only really one person, the lady who helped us after our flight got delayed going into Paris to get us to Florence. She was able to get us on the very next flight to Florence,
which also got delayed.
Which was also delayed.
After they threatened to call the police.
She kindly explained the baggage policy that was not clear on the website, and checked our over bags for free for us. So there's small blessings in every situation. Obviously, we have favor with man because we were able to make the next flight, and we were able to, get to Florence still the same day. A little bit delayed, but still the same day. Now coming back, Air France, Jesus. Yeah, there are a lot of words that I'd like to use, but I am saved, so I'm not going to use them. But having to sit if we had not been in the chairman's lounge, for those 6 hours, 5-6 hours waiting in Florence for the new plane or whatever the situation was that was never fully explained to us as the passengers, having to delay our flight to another city, I will say I would have probably been really, 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 really pissed off. Like, I think because we were able to sit in the chairman's lounge and enjoy the free food and drinks, we were able to temper.
It was a lot easier
to temper our anger. Had we just been sitting at the gate for 6 hours waiting for our delayed flight. And like he said, the experience with the manager once we landed in Paris, because at that point we had lost a whole day. We got up early. Our plan was to fly into Paris early and hit the Louvre. We weren't able to get tickets to go, so we were just going to stand in line. That was our plan for the first day, get in there and see the Louvre, because we knew it was closed on Tuesdays and we leave on Wednesday. And because we had not previously purchased a ticket, the fact that we no longer even had the opportunity to stand in line and wait to possibly potentially get in there, that manager didn't care. He did not care that we had missed other things that we had planned on doing that evening. He cared. The only thing he cared about was the fact that we didn't have a connecting flight that we had missed. So we were at the end of our contract, as they put it. And basically, if there wasn't anything that he wanted, what we needed planned, if we didn't need another flight, we were not his problem. So that was really disappointing to watch and listen to. Also, as someone who's worked in customer service for a really long time, the customer is not always right. But when you mess something up, or, you, especially for time, I'm a hairstylist. Time is very important to people. Someone comes to my chair, I'm running 2 hours behind. That means their appointment is going to be at least 3 hours behind. You let that person know and you make it right. Period. That's good customer service. Give them an option to opt out, even if you want. There's so many other ways that he could have fixed that situation or even de-escalated the situation. But he didn't do any of those things. He was mad rude, Mr. Sergey Renault. I do remember his name, and trust, when we write that review, his name is going to be in there. So Air France, y'all can suck it. Suck it, suck it. But Paris itself, French people, I learned y'all suck, or generally y'all aren't the nicest people. You could definitely use some etiquette classes, but Air France specifically almost tried to ruin my trip, but I didn't let them steal my joy.
Well said. Sergey, if I ever see you and you're not working at an airport that I would risk getting arrested internationally
and put on a no-fly zone. Put on a no-fly list.
I need to fly. But if the opportunity presents itself, Lord willing, we're going to handle that different.
But even still, I just gave Air France a lot of hard time. I gave them a hard time. But the Paris airport, the Charles de Gaulle airport, that's the worst airport I've ever flown through in my life. I've flown to third world countries. I've been to Mexico in the middle of COVID. We went to Barbados in the middle of COVID. And these are some of the tiniest airports with not the greatest level of technology. And I mean, Charles de Gaulle was probably, outside of flying into Terminal 5 of Heathrow, probably one of the nicest airports I've ever been in. Now, I know there are other ones, nicer ones in the world, the one in Dubai, whatever. I'm talking about Charles de Gaulle. Beautiful airport. The most dysfunctional, unfunctioning, functional place ever. Why we had to scan our boarding passes. How many times? We scanned it to get to security. Then we scanned it again to get to security. Then we scanned it in security. Then we got past security. Guess what we did? Scan that boarding pass. Then guess what? After they checked our passports and we scanned it again, we ran down a long hallway, went through duty free, and then what? Scanned it again. I don't think I've ever kept such good track of my boarding pass ever before.
You don't lose your boarding pass.
You're not going to lose your boarding pass.
You have to redo it was just a mess. Speaking of the airport, we're here. I had a hoodie on. A hoodie. Actually, a zip-up hoodie, not even a real hoodie. It had nothing in the pocket. I had nothing in the pocket. When I say nothing, I mean nothing was in my pocket. We're rushing to get to. We got to the airport 2 hours early.
No, we got to the airport almost 3 hours early. Let's start there.
Because of the ridiculous security measures, we were now running late. We didn't stop anywhere. We didn't get a chance to eat. We did nothing. We just went through the steps they put in place. It took almost 3 hours. My hoodie that had nothing in it gets pulled aside by security. It was the only thing in the bin, just my hoodie with nothing in the pocket. I had to stand there and wait and risk missing our flight because they wouldn't give me my jacket. That was there with nothing in it.
Meanwhile, they let my drone fly right through.
Didn't
even look at it.
Just the oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad. But on to positive things. I thought it was important because we did kind of go into this with some preconceived notions of stuff we wanted to do. Gladiator is a top 3 movie of all time for me, one of my favorites. I loved it. Our kid is named after a character in the movie. Like
we did do that, didn't we?
Yes, we did. As a unit together. It is just, it was great. And so I didn't really know what to expect by getting a chance to see the Roman Coliseum. Like I watched Spartacus, I watched mad shows and movies about that era and that world. So our room did have, and I'll try and sift through all the pictures and find, we had a view of the Coliseum from our room. Definitely worth it. Had made some life memories just with everything that was going on. Like just such a great time. And it's so big. Like I've obviously been to stadiums, but again, thinking of how the heck they made that thing and then fixed it multiple times that long ago is just mind blowing. Like it's massive. They could fill it up with water and then drain. And I didn't know that.
Yeah, like it was a full on theater. People went there for real entertainment. So not just to get your head cut off, and
it's not even how it started.
Yeah,
it was just a theater.
It was literally a theater, and they would put on these enormous performances for free for the people. And just when you start to think about it, and then when you're standing in the middle of this arena and you're looking out and you're thinking about how many people used to fill up what used to be the stands, it's just like it makes you really, I think, what's the word? Because I said it when we were there. It really makes you want to push your thought process more. It makes you want to go harder, because it's like you said, the Colosseum was built literally thousands of years ago, and it's still standing. And although it's not like completely still standing, they're in the works of talking about revamping it so they can go back to hosting events there. The foundation and the structure is still strong enough for them to even consider doing something like that. Meanwhile, we have buildings, this house or any house, the weakest little hurricane or something come through and it's gone. And then when you come back to America and you think about how this country was built and what it was built on, even the things that we do have that are older, that we are supposed to revere and appreciate, it's tainted, it's stained. It's just not the same as, for Black folks in America looking at our history here as it is looking at it there. It's just opens your mind, is what I'll say.
Like they had seat numbers, even back then, that each gate is numbered for you to know where you would enter into based on your family value system. Like just the meticulous nature of everything to make things as efficient as possible. They literally had trap doors that they could drop stuff in and then bring stuff up. Like hundreds and thousands of years ago, they knew to not only think of it, but create it in such a way. And that was really the experience in Rome, is just whether it's the arches or the aqueducts that, like, we were walking around. I think it was Rome, where the Trevi Fountain's in Rome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in Rome, like, you can drink the water on the street. Like, this is a populated city that's been living for centuries, and you could drink the water out of a fountain on the street.
That was built literally thousands of years ago. And it's just like that, like, again, like you said, like that realization of seeing what human hands, like what we are truly capable of when we put our minds to it. It's just kind of insane.
Indeed. But for me, the Coliseum was definitely what I was looking forward to the most. And like I made the LeBron comparison earlier, it over-delivered. Like, I didn't know all of what to expect when I got a chance to walk on the floor, on the grounds, but just to be in a place where the greats have been, to be in a place that has seen and experienced so much over the years to be still standing, to go through the bunch of different facelifts and restorations, but to still be this pillar that's just a
like
pillar
they
of
were
excellence.
taking pieces from it at one point in time
To
during
build
the
other
Middle
parts.
Ages,
Mhm.
because there were the statues of stone and silver and marble, and like there are all these trinkets of things that had been stuck into this beautiful building that the city now needed to defend itself. So they went and were taking the iron and, you know, breaking down, you know, melting down gates and chains, you know, that were once used to house gladiators, basically, to make bullets so that they could defend the city. Like, it's just so much history in every inch of it. It is definitely crazy.
Yeah. What about you?
So, what was I looking forward to the most? I think I was looking forward the most to the Vatican, and specifically the Sistine Chapel. I have heard stories about how amazing it is. I have seen pictures online, I took an art history class, so I've seen pictures of it in books, learned about it. But I just had this idea of like this kind of like how your response was to the Santa Maria Church in the Square of Miracles in Pisa. I thought we were going to walk into the chapel and I was going to look up and just be moved by art and just be overwhelmed really by it. When in reality, the Sistine Chapel was like a little dark room with no windows almost, super crowded with risers on each side. It was dark, honestly, for it to be a room of such magnitude, and cramped, obviously, because there were a lot of people there, and rushed. Like, we booked the tour, we could have stayed in the room longer, but we had obviously had to go with the rest of the people. But even if we had not been on the tour and had stayed in the room, like, just the way that they have people in the room, spaced in the room, you can't really enjoy it, at least not in the time we had, and not in one visit. It's huge, but it's so small at the same time. And there's so much detail in all of it, because it's not just the point where, you know, God is giving life and consciousness to Adam. There is so much more up there on that ceiling. You've got different stories of Jesus's life. You've got different stories of, was it Moses? Jesus and Moses?
Yes.
So you've got different stories from Moses's life. And there is just so much. And then obviously on your way into the Vatican, into the Sistine Chapel, if you do a tour, they're explaining to you the history and how everything got built and how everything was painted and made. So you learn that the what was it, the thing, what's it in behind where the people talk,
Altar?
the altar. Gee, I couldn't think of the word. So you learn that Leonardo painted the altar later on in his life after he painted. I said Leonardo.
You did.
You learn that he painted the altar after he painted the ceiling, and then even still he came back and did even more work in the chapel after he was well into his older years. And so to see the beauty and then to understand what those men went through to paint and, you know, create this beautiful work of art, you really need time to stand there and appreciate it. You need more light to really stand there and appreciate it. And for it to have been this thing that has been in my head of me wanting to see for the better part of half my life, and then I finally get to go there and I see it, and it just wasn't everything that I wanted it to be. I definitely would go back and maybe just sit there in the middle of the floor and let people walk around me. I don't know. So that you can really sit there, so that you can take it in and appreciate it.
That is not at all where I thought you were going to go.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with the rushed part. I think part of the problem is it is a smaller room and a massive installation.
It is.
And it's like the room of the massive installation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough that that's the room everybody wants to get in, but that structure of the Vatican is a city, like it's a country.
Literally.
So I can understand why it was as tight as it was. Obviously, it's sacred, so they didn't want any pictures or videos of people talking, which that nobody's really following that when you got that many visitors, just being honest. But for me, I think the other part is because of where it's located and because of literally the entire room being painted, I don't know how much you can bring in there to add light. Like, because you'd have to go through the walls. And I don't think they try and go through the walls because literally from like the middle up is all paintings everywhere. Like, so I think it's difficult for that reason. And for me, I appreciated that because it felt different. It felt sacred. It felt like it was supposed to be a place of calm and different from everywhere else. So
it's not supposed to be a museum.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a chapel.
Place of worship.
It's a Sistine Chapel.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas when we went to St. Peter's Basilica, like they was doing mass and people was just walking around just chilling.
Right.
Just taking pictures, videos, and they singing in
Latin.
Yeah. It's just this. I think it's supposed to be different. I don't know. Here's the other part. I don't know what low season means in Italy, but
there's no such thing.
I don't know what high season is because the Trevi Fountain, we couldn't get a picture of us. Like the Coliseum.
No, it was us and like 10 other people in our picture.
Packed. The Pisa Tower was constantly people going around. Everywhere we went, there was people. And the city streets was lit.
Yeah, and they were saying this is a low season. And I can't imagine what it's like there, like in the middle of July.
Parking was bad when we was there.
We couldn't find parking anywhere.
So like, I don't know. But in our suggestion to y'all, Inside Scoop, I would go before March and probably after September. Anything in between that, I think you're gonna have a tough time. And we were there for Valentine's Day, but it wasn't like a bunch of people was celebrating Valentine's. Like I didn't see really any Valentine's Day stuff really over there like that. What'd you see?
I saw mad Valentine's Day stuff.
Of the people?
Yes, even like the way the restaurants were set up and
which restaurant?
All of them, right?
I did not see no.
Maybe not DeCarlo.
The only place I saw like that was Paris.
No,
and our hotel had a crazy little photo setup.
Jolie, every day we went in there had a different Valentine's display for the. I've got videos of it.
You talking about the cupcake or the donut?
No, I mean they had like a whole Valentine's display of all the pretty deliciousness.
I see it.
Oh, I have videos and pictures of it in a bunch of the restaurants.
We was walking around one night. Somebody tried to sell us flowers. I didn't even see a bunch of that. I didn't see a bunch of people dressed up. Like I didn't see it.
I think you just don't be paying attention because even on Valentine's night, like mad people in our hotel were outside taking pictures.
And I said in Paris, yes, that made sense. But even the restaurant we went to wasn't like lit. Granted, it was super late.
It was like 2:00 in the morning.
It's Valentine's night. People would be out late drinking, having a good time. I would have thought.
Well, we were
Paris. Blah, blah.
Well, we were down the street from the peep show place, so
I would have thought it'd been lit.
I'm sure it was on the inside of all the places.
I mean, the city was kind of quiet. That's all. But yeah. Where were we? We'll pick it up a little bit. Do I want to do that? Yes. So I already kind of explained Leaning Tower exceeded my expectation. But there was something that it didn't let me down, but it was just a lot to digest. So when you travel, you just notice things. And as I've gotten older, as a minority in this world, you just notice things. And I know the history of America's mad racist, and they keep trying to erase it and say it didn't happen. We know it did. Conversation for another day. But I'm not going to lie. Going in these museums, it is so white. It's ridiculous. Like, you can walk in a room and there'd be 20 paintings and it's all white people. And not just one white person per picture, like 20 white people in one picture. So it's just white, 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 white everywhere. And after a while, it was a lot for me. Like, I understand, like, I ain't the biggest, I need to see representation, but god dang. Can we get like 1 to 2 brothers and something? Like, black people didn't exist in Italy or Paris, apparently. Not when they was painting stuff. Like, I don't know where we were every time they had to sit down to paint, but we was nowhere to be found because we wasn't in no pictures. And so that was a little disappointing. Obviously, I wouldn't expect them to have dreadlock Jesus in any of the paintings.
It would have been nice to see a dreadlock Jesus or some kind of like modern installation of interpretation of Christ, because it was a lot of like white Jesus. And it wasn't just white Jesus. It was like the creepy white Jesus picture.
And it was mad dicks. Creepy baby. Yeah, and it was mad dicks. There was dicks everywhere. Like,
there were a lot of penises.
Small dicks. Like, I don't know if that was like a thing back then, but everybody had a small dick. So it was really kind of weird walking around with all those white penises everywhere. Just naked white people all around. Statues of it, paintings of it. They was doing some real
and
they raped some chick.
I was gonna say that was one thing I think that was interesting to take away from the experience of being immersed in Italian art from the Italian Renaissance. To see the difference in the sculptures before the Renaissance and the sculptures after the Renaissance. The sculptures before the Renaissance were all very static. They were literally like just these stone figures carved into time, and that was it. Whereas
they started moving.
Yeah, whereas the statues after and during the Renaissance, they show expression and there's a lot more movement, and like you really feel the emotions that are being carved into the stone. As Ray pointed out, not all of those emotions were great.
A lot of them was bad.
Yeah, and the altar for what was it? The cathedral, there were specific scenes carved into one. Was when the pharaoh ordered for the babies all the boys under the age of 2, all to be killed, and so the statue. Oh, I wouldn't say it's a statue.
It was like a painting, but like of sculptures.
It was a sculpted painting. Boom, that's what we're gonna call it. Yeah. To see the emotion in the mothers trying to grab their children from the soldiers. And like, there was one where there's like a soldier and he's like lashing out with a whip. Like, it was not quote unquote real, but dang on it, if I didn't start feeling like somebody give me a shovel or something so I can help this woman defend her baby. It was so emotional. But yeah, it was a lot of whiteness, and we are very pro-black here at the Bond Chronicles. We are, and it was a lot.
I'm okay with appreciating some white people. Like, y'all did some stuff, but it was just a lot. And then, like the statue of, was it Nero?
Yeah,
that one was dope. He cut Medusa head off.
Oh no, that wasn't. That was,
it was somebody with Pisa.
Perseus.
Yeah, that was a dope sculpture. David, I don't even think we got the David.
Yeah, and that's what that's my thing. That was my thing. That was
yeah. So yeah, that was really it. Just it was a lot of white Jesus and a lot of white people, and then white nakedness. It's just a lot of white for me. That might have been the most white nudity I've ever been around, actually. So it was a lot for me. After a while, I kind of had to blank it out and just get out of there.
Yeah, we did after a while. And this was specifically when we were walking through the Uffizi Gallery. One, it's huge. It's like 4 floors.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
And it's like this. It's like an entire city block. It's probably the same size as if you've ever been, the African American Museum of Arts and History Culture in DC. Like, it's a really long name, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Similar to that, really big. Full of a bunch of white paintings. Like, Venus de Milo was there, the birth of Venus. It was beautiful. That was a cool painting to see in person. But
there was some other stuff that was cool, but after a while, I was like,
so just a lot of death
it's
too.
Raggedy John.
Oh, and I wish I had. I didn't write down the name of it.
Oh, the lady. That
the
cut
lady.
the head
So
off.
there's a story in Roman history or Florentine history. This woman, she goes to save some people, so she cuts the dude's head off, and she's just parading around Florence, I guess, with old boy's head to prove that she was actually the one who cut off old boy's head, and her little maidservant is following behind her. We saw 30 of those paintings at least, and a different interpretation of each and every one. But every single one included her cutting that man's head off, and some were way more graphic and gory than others. I'll tell you that. But David. So I was not super excited to see David. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, I knew that Michelangelo had sculpted the David, and it was a big deal, but I didn't know why it was a big deal. So let's start off for one. I found out that David was like David from the Bible, like David and Goliath. Oh, that David did not know that. Had no idea. And so, obviously, upon seeing David and understanding that it was David in the moment before he defeats Goliath, then it makes you look at him, and it's just like, oh, David's getting ready to go fight. He's just standing, he's calm, he's cool, he's collected. But then you look at his face, you look at the statue's face, and you see like the concern and like the concentration in his brow. And then obviously we didn't know these things. We were learning from our tour guide. She was amazing. She obviously paid attention in all of her art history classes. You learn that David is anatomically correct. Everything about David is exactly where it's supposed to be in the human body. So I didn't know what details you were going to share about David.
So even the way he's standing, so the motion in which he's standing, the way in which his arm is down on one side would cause veins because he's grabbing his sling. So that causes.
In this hand, he's holding the
but the rock with the sling.
Yeah.
Okay. One, there are rocks on one. I didn't know David had a sling on his back. So I just thought he always had this cool pose because he was strutting or something. But he is literally fighting Goliath. So if you look in his top shoulder, there's a rock that you can see is already in the sack, and then it goes down his back, his naked back, of course. And I'm not gonna lie to this. I'm gonna say no homo. Y'all can't find this.
David was kind of thick.
David, he thick on him.
Yeah.
He's well in
Michelangelo like the little.
He like the little thick men. I don't know. But anyway, so it comes down the way in which he's even standing, the way in which his veins are structured, the way in which his arms are, his fingers, everything about it would be as if a real human today did that same movement, they would have that same pose. So the theory is that Michelangelo used to like.
There's no theory. Okay. Like, he studied medicine.
Okay.
So, he studied the human physiology so that he could be a better sculptor.
Yeah. So what that means is like he was dealing with a lot of dead bodies and stuff.
He was cutting people open.
Yeah. So that was a lot to kind of process. I just thought it was a cool statue. Also, it changes. Like when you're really far away, it looks one way. When you get up closer, the proportions are different. He's still good.
Perfect.
But he's still perfect because he was initially supposed to be outside. He wasn't supposed to be inside. So he was supposed to be seen from far, but then they changed their mind and they brought him inside. Like lots of cool nuances to it. He has been attacked by crazy people. So his toes, he had to get a pedicure because his toes are a little jacked up.
Yeah, they had to hook him up.
That happened a couple times. People just be wilding and beating on the statues, which is just crazy to me. But people be crazy, so I guess it shouldn't be surprising. But no, he was a dashing young fellow that slayed Goliath, and
became king.
Became king.
But that's the thing. And so again, I don't think I put it together even until we were there and like immersed in all of it. That most of the Italian culture, it's especially when you're talking about ancient Italian culture, is ingrained in religious history, but there's so much mythology, and they've like kind of wrapped it all into one book. I don't know what you want to call it, because like you'll be standing and looking at a painting, and in the painting, let's say you have Jesus in the painting.
Yeah.
But then somewhere else in the same painting, in a smaller scene, you'll have like Zeus attacking somebody, like with a lightning bolt,
Nike or Aphrodite
or something.
Any mythology.
So like they had like this supreme understanding and love and fear and respect for God and biblical characters, but at the same time, their culture and their history of mythology was still ingrained in so much of their artwork and their lives. It's just a lot. It was a lot. And David was amazing because it was just amazing. Michelangelo carved David out of what? He's 17 feet tall, people.
It's 14.
I thought it was 17.
No, it's
14? Fine, 14. I think.
But he's made out of like bad material. Like it was 2 other people tried to make him and couldn't. And Michelangelo's like, watch this.
Watch this. No, he did and got it done in spectacular fashion because David is literally
and he was
perfect.
Working. Like the without him,
there's nothing in Italy.
If there's no Michelangelo and no Medici, I don't know that Italy is a destination.
Italy ain't it. It's just not it.
So shout out to them. And as crazy as he was and as bad as they were, y'all needed them. Which brings me to something a little less as we kind of begin to wrap a bit. And YouTube, congratulations, y'all got a good one out of us, but it was just so much. Y'all deserve it. Y'all been rocking this for a long time. But when you talk about unassuming, that's one of the words to me that describes Italy. I can't tell you how many different massive, historically famous things we stood right next to or within a matter of feet from, and you would have never known it existed. From walking through the gate in Pisa to turning the corner and seeing the Duomo, to turning the corner and seeing the Colosseum, to the Sistine Chapel, not the Sistine Chapel, the Trevi Fountain and where it was located. You're just walking down this narrow street with all these little people trying to hustle you and gain you and get your money, and then boom,
just
something
marvel
massive is just there. Like we were just like she talked about, we were just winding on this road, and then all of a sudden there was this little drop off, this little pull off spot, like a rest area, but you see all of Florence and beyond. Like there were so many of those instances, and that even on the smaller scale. One of our last days, we went to a place that was literally like across, I don't want to say across the street, but it looked almost across the street from where we were, but it was a town maybe like literally a whole different city.
It was a whole different city that we had a view of.
Away.
10 minutes, yeah.
Okay, let's say 10 minutes because you got to wind up all the crazy hills. But we're just, we go up this street, this random street, and there's a bunch of this. You don't know if it's a real street, if it's supposed to be a walkway for just people. You just be driving and the Google Maps be taking you. Whoever programmed Google Maps, God bless you. Because I don't know how you found these roads. But you're going, and we go to eat at this one place that's about to close in Italy because the service is amazing. You can show up 5 minutes before they close.
And they will make you food.
They will make you food. It will be hot, and they will not rush you. They will engage you. They will talk to you. They won't be like, God dang, you just ruined my time to get off.
They feed you so well there.
Nothing like that. Service top notch, checking on you when needed, and leaving you alone, even though they're trying to get out of there. But on the way up, I happened to see this little colorful walkway. And on the way out, she was like, yeah, we can. I saw it on Google Maps that said there's an overview. And I'm like, okay, cool. It'll be some like view because where our view was really nice.
Yeah.
But when I tell you, and I'm going to try and put up the video, I think it's on your phone. It was beautiful. Like, we were just walking through this free little museum
art gallery
kind of thing with these sculptures that was like 7.
It was inspired by Dante's Divine Comedy, and they were interpretations of the different 7 circles of hell.
And this was in the Jerusalem of Pisa or something.
And basically, Petroli is considered the Jerusalem of Tuscany. Did not actually figure out why, because all of the signs were in Italian.
So didn't really read it.
And my Italian isn't strong enough for that yet.
But we're just walking through this little gallery that we just happened to find, and then was it a door? Yeah,
we go through a door.
You go through a door, and then it just opens up, and we're like on the backside of almost looking like a mountain, because we had driven up the hill into the city, but it's like the backside. And it was rolling hills, and just
beautiful,
just beauty, like so beautiful and so calm. And the people out there just so nonchalant and just
they see it, and that's the thing. They see it every day. So maybe they don't understand the gravity of the beauty that they literally are surrounded by. But when you think about America and how frequently and how often all of our green spaces are teared down, there's, parks and things, but it's not the same as just a natural, undisturbed countryside. And just walking out there, and it was not quite sunset yet, but it was that early time before dusk. Just beautiful view. There was not a cloud in the sky, so your visibility had to have been at least 20 miles. And that's with no glasses or anything. Like, just amazing. And we're standing there, literally, it's our last day. And so we're just like, dang, we're going to Paris. Super excited to go to Paris, but
I was not.
Look at this. Can we just stay here? Can we just stay here and soak this up just a little bit longer? Because I don't want to leave and forget what this was like, because I don't have anything that's comparable. We have seen beautiful sunsets. Costa Rica, a beautiful place. Cabo, beautiful place. I've been some places. Amazing. There was nothing like that. Nothing, hands down. I don't think I could find that anywhere else. But trust and believe, I'm going to try.
So no, that was probably the biggest surprise, because again, just we had foods from the place, we were getting it to go back. And so we were just like, we'll just stop over here real quick
in here and take
see
a
what
gander.
It looks like. And man, just breathtaking to see and experience that in a place that no one would ever think. And to your point, you were saying the beauty of, Italy versus here. They put that new area in downtown DC, that new shops.
Yeah.
Don't look nothing like the buildings around it. Because downtown DC has a lot of that older look.
But we tear it down.
And we put up these super cool modern structures. Even in the fact that this structure that we're talking about was modern, it still fits the city. They paint the new buildings to be the same color, so it looks like the old ones.
The aesthetic, it all matches.
The architecture, even the stuff that gets damaged, some of the buildings got damaged. They took the rocks from those buildings and then rebuilt new stuff.
Oh, right. During World War II, Florence was bombed terribly. They destroyed almost every bridge except for the Ponte Vecchio. But instead of destroying the Ponte Vecchio, they blew up all the streets leading to the Ponte Vecchio. And one of the market streets that we were walking down had our tour guide not told us that every building on that street was brand new, we would have had no idea, because the way that they basically salvaged the rocks and rubble and everything from destruction and rebuilt everything, it was just beautiful. Amazing. Not enough words. And obviously not enough time, because
And this was over the course of about 10 days.
We did.
Through the 15th,
we did.
That. So we did do a lot. The Italian portion, I would suggest having a car, just because it gives you the flexibility. And there's a bunch of places we still didn't get to that I really wanted to get to. Mainly San Gimignano. It has these really tall towers that I think are really cool. She can do all that she wants. She learned how to drive a stick. We can go wherever she want to go. But it was just
a little spicy, man.
I seen a little look you did, like somebody wasn't trying to go.
A little spicy, okay.
Driving to and from Rome and day after day, but it's cool. It's cool. It was a great time. It was great scenery.
And you
it was super scary. I do not. That's not true. I do it because I value my life.
Exactly.
And so I do what's necessary. But driving there was an experience. The food and drinks was something that we'll get into a little bit more detail because I know we're kind of long here. We'll probably get to that a little bit on Patreon. But there was just so much. We got some hidden gems for food. As far as how to drink, if you're into drinking, we got some nuggets for you there.
We will definitely be doing a video on all of our little tips and tricks for any of our followers or, people who are planning a trip to Italy or thinking about planning a trip to Italy. At some point, it'll be part of the
Paris too.
Italy. Yeah. Paris too.
We still learned a lot. I would say that.
We did. And it'll be part of a nice little playlist that we'll put together for you guys after we have compiled all of the content that we took, because we did take a lot of pictures, videos, and everything. And like my darling husband said, Patreon has already gotten a lot of this stuff. Yeah. Some of these things will be available for YouTube at some point in time. But if you want everything now, you know what to do.
For as low as $5 a month, you too can live vicariously through us. But no, just really great. One other thing, one nugget, I'll give you this one, the last one for free. Gas. If you see that it's $1.89, or you think it's $1.89 or one, I don't know how you would say euro.
I don't know.
€1 and 89 euro. I don't know how it works.
It's the same.
But
you just say it the same.
Say it, so it's $1.89.
You're
saying
$89.
$1.
Euro 89.
That's just weird to say. I've never had to say that. So €1.89, you think that's a gallon, right?
Nah.
It's a liter. You know how many liters in a gallon?
A lot.
4 and some change. So that €1.89, multiply it by 4, and that's how much you pay per gallon. So it was like $100 to fill up this little mini truck thing, like this mini baby SUV we got. Like, I thought, this is going to be great on gas, which it was.
It was, because we drove a lot.
But it was $100 to fill it up. And that wasn't even like from full to empty. Like, that was like low. But not low.
No, low. We did almost run out of gas one night.
Whoa. That was going to talk about that a little later.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah. Erase that.
Well, we did almost run out of gas. You kind of gave it to you. But that story was definitely Patreon, because that was... we started thinking about life and what it means. So we'll definitely get into that, because there was some stuff going through my head. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. But yeah, it was such a fun trip. It was an 8 out of 10. Paris, you ruined it. Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, y'all let me down, gave me 0 points. I'll get into more of my experience at the stadium as well. It's probably a Patreon thing. But yeah, it was such a time. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing about it. Hopefully you've been watching our social media. And if you haven't, please subscribe on Patreon.
Why aren't you following us on social media? You should be following us on social media. If you watch this podcast every Monday, you should be following us on social media. Do I need to say it again?
The Bond Chronicles, Mr. Ray Bond, Mrs. Bond Chronicles. Y'all know what it is.
Y'all know what it is.
Find us, follow, enjoy, share, and inspire. That's the biggest part. We probably should start with this. This ain't about us. This is not to brag to anybody. Like, we make decent money. We got 4 kids. Like, it is God that allows us to do this.
Facts. Because my checking account, God did that. I don't even know how we just and I bought a Beyonce ticket in the middle of vacation.
She did, amongst other things. So while I'm here, Beyonce, slightly walking back.
No. Go ahead and do it right.
Did you see the VIP prices for some of the stuff?
I've seen VIP prices for other people's stuff.
I ain't seen them prices. Anyway, as I am going to say, I am slightly walking back my ticket price critique of her. My wife and her friend were able to get phenomenal seats at a phenomenal price at one of the shows. She did have to leave the country to do it.
No, we did that on purpose.
My point is, she got those prices and experience by leaving the country. I don't know what the people's experience here was buying tickets, but you did as best you could from what I can understand. From what I understand, the scene of the little password thing worked. I didn't.
It did, because I barely was able to get in there to get the ticket.
A lot of issues with like not being able to get tickets. It was just either you got it, you could afford it or not. But shout out to you. You did that. And
so excited to see Beyonce.
Dang, dude. So we haven't covered the Super Bowl.
We haven't covered anything, y'all. Oh,
because we watched the Super Bowl at midnight, at 2 a.m. actually.
I watched Rihanna. Okay. I did.
So, dang, we gotta talk about that.
There's so many things that was happening in the United States while we were gone.
There was train derailments, blimps, UFOs, all that. We heard
ridiculousness happening in the world. So we might try and drop another episode just so we can give y'all a little something. Just so that we can talk about.
We was watching.
Talk about some of the things that we saw.
Shortly after this, NBA All-Star Weekend will happen. We had a dunk contest.
Well, no, NBA Weekend, it did already happen.
Yeah, what I said.
It's shortly going to happen.
Oh, well, I meant we're gonna cover it. Have to cover.
Oh, no, yeah.
So yeah, a lot of content for you, but you know what to do. Subscribe to Patreon, like, share, and subscribe. We love y'all, appreciate y'all. We will tune back in next week. Stay tuned. So you just want to swap the phones now?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And record Patreon.
Forgot about recording Patreon. So what are we recording?
Want to do? I mean, because it didn't come out till Thursday.
Right. I don't feel like that right now.
Okay.
And